Today, we are diving into what might be the single most important yet most overlooked skill for success in pretty much everything. We're talking about empathy. We're going to look at why it seems to be disappearing and, more importantly, how you can get it back. So, let's just start with a really direct question. For you, if you had to take a quick, honest look in the mirror, how empathetic are you? Really? It's a skill we all kind of think we have, right? But our ability to genuinely understand other people, it's being challenged like never before.
And look, this isn't just a hunch, it's a fact. A huge study found that empathy levels among college students have literally plummeted by 40% in recent decades. And the steepest drop? That happened since the year 2000. This empathy deficit is a real thing, and it has real consequences.
To see exactly what those consequences look like, we're going to follow the true story of a school principal. And it's a story that starts out with the absolute best of intentions, but, well, it goes off the rails pretty fast because of a critical empathy gap. Okay, so here's the setup. You've got a new white principal who takes over a school where almost all the students are Black. The community has a long, difficult history of racial tension, and Black parents they're fed up with years of their kids underperforming. The principal walks in thinking his hard work and good intentions are going to be enough. Spoiler alert, he was wrong. The relationship with one of the key parents, a guy named Warren, starts to unravel almost right away. First, Warren asks for some test data. The principal just shuts him down, says, sorry, it's policy. That's a huge missed opportunity. Then, for weeks, he actually avoids Warren in the hallways. The whole thing really blows up in October over playground supervision. Warren explains that 8 a.m. is just too late for working parents. And what does the principal do? He just quotes the policy again. No solutions, no understanding, just rules. You know, the principal himself summed up his own failure perfectly. He admitted later, I created an enemy rather than an ally. Just by focusing on the rules and not the actual person standing right in front of him, he made the whole situation so much worse. But the story doesn't stop there. Things got so tense that the superintendent had to get involved. And what she did next? Well, it was a total masterclass in empathy that completely flipped the script for this principal. What's so amazing here is what the superintendent didn't do. She didn't come in and change the policy or promise some quick fix. Instead, she just listened. That's it. She asked the parents how they were feeling, and she took notes, which showed them that their words actually mattered. She didn't have to agree with them. She just had to validate their struggle. And by doing that, she diffused the entire conflict, just by making people feel heard. This whole story really forces us to ask a pretty basic question. What even is empathy? Because it's not just about being nice, and it's definitely not what that principal was doing at the beginning. Researcher Brené Brown gives us probably the clearest distinction I've ever heard. Sympathy is feeling for someone. You know, it's looking down from a distance and saying, oh, that's a shame. It creates distance. But empathy is feeling with someone. It's about climbing down into the hole with them to understand what it's really like down there. It's what feels connection. I really love this definition from Roman Krznaric. He calls empathy an art. It's this active, imaginative process of trying to see the world from somebody else's point of view. And then, and this is the most important part, using that understanding to actually guide your actions. So, armed with this totally new understanding, the principal started to put empathy into practice. Instead of judging a parent whose kid was always late, he actually took the time to build a relationship and discovered she had some serious personal challenges. Instead of labeling a teacher as unmotivated, he asked about her life and learned she was going through a really tough time. And you know what? In both cases, just trying to understand completely transformed the outcome. So here's the critical point in all of this. Empathy is not some fixed trait that you're just born with. Nope, it's a skill. And just like any other skill, you can learn it, you can practice it, and you can absolutely get better at it. So let's talk about how you can start doing that. The biggest thing standing in our way is what you might call the empathy bubble. And trust me, we all live inside one. It's our own personal echo chamber of people who think like us, news sources that agree with us, and routines that constantly reinforce what we already believe. It makes us feel comfortable, for sure, but it makes it incredibly difficult to understand anyone who lives outside of it. So how do you pop the bubble? You have to be intentional about it. You have to take yourself on what you could call an empathy tour. Deliberately expose yourself to different viewpoints.
Experience a cultural event that is totally new for you. And maybe most importantly, make it a goal to have one real conversation with a stranger every single week. Just be curious. And this leads us to one of the most powerful tools you have at your disposal, the empathy conversation. This is where you talk to someone with one single explicit goal, to understand their perspective. You're not there to argue or to convince them of anything. You are just there to learn.
And during that conversation, you have to practice empathetic listening. This is not a passive sport. You lean in. You maintain eye contact. You actually summarize what they've said back to them to make sure you understood it correctly. Every single one of these actions, even just taking a few notes, sends a really powerful signal that says, I hear you, and what you're saying is important to me.
And let's be absolutely crystal clear on this one point. This is not about agreeing with everybody. You can deeply understand someone's perspective, their feelings, their experiences, without adopting their point of view. Empathy is a tool for connection, not a demand for consensus.
You know, in sports, people always say the best teams are the luckiest, but it's not luck at all, is it? It's preparation meeting opportunity. And the exact same thing is true for empathy. Successful relationships and connections, they don't just happen by luck. They happen because you've done the work to prepare yourself to understand another person.
So that leaves us with one final question for you. Empathy isn't something you have, it's something you do. It's a choice, and it's a practice. So when you look at your own life, your work, your relationships, how are you going to prepare?